Hello, today I'm going to show you how to make this granny square, which is the main recurring theme throughout the Frosted Pearl blanket. Once you've made this first one, all the other ones will just be variations in the colours used and the number of colours used, apart from one other one which I will show you in a different video. The granny square is a little bit more open, slightly different from a standard granny square. You can see that instead of groups of 3 stitches to form the clusters, there are just 2 stitches, and that's all throughout the blanket, which gives a nice open look and goes really well, I think, with these pastel colours. There are 4 colours used in this particular square. As I said, in other sections there might just be 3 colours, but this is the first square that you make for the blanket, so this is the one I'm going to show you. Now, round 1 is done in the cream, so I'll put this out of the way. And I've made a start by chaining 4, and I have chained 4 and slip stitched into the first chain, and I have now made 2 chain stitches which will correspond with the first stitch of this round. This is going to be in UK terms, so I'm going to be working with treble stitches. In US terms, that's double crochet. So I've chained 2 and I'm going to yarn over. I'm going to find that centre hole, pick up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, then that's a treble stitch. Now I'm going to chain 1 because you're going to end up with 8 groups of trebles with a chain stitch in between. That's our first group of trebles. I'm going to yarn over again, put my hook into the centre and make a treble stitch. And again, and chain 1 in between each group. So that's me done 2. I will pause the video and come back when I've done all 8 into that circle. Now you can see that I've come all the way round. I've got my 8 groups of 2 trebles with a chain stitch which gives a little space in between each group, and I've finished with a chain 1, and I'm now needing to just finish this colour off, so I'm going to go into the top of the first chain 2 and pull through a slip stitch, and then I can cut that yarn and we're finished with the cream. Just pull that through to fasten it off. And as I said, when we're finished this whole square, we can tighten this centre and finish off the ends, but we're leaving the ends for the time being. Right, now I'm going to turn this onto the wrong side, and this is where we're going to work the next colour. So taking my next colour, I want to find any space between the 2 groups of trebles, so I'll put my hook in there and attach the yarn. And what we're going to do now is square off this circle. So we're going to have to make 4 corners and 4 clusters of stitches between each corner. This is going to be the beginning of corner number 1. So I'm going to chain 2, yarn over, insert my hook into that same space, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. And that's the beginning, the first half of the first corner. Then I'm going to yarn over again, jump over to the next chain space and make 2 treble stitches in there. That's going to form the flat part, the flat side of the square. And then we come to the next corner. So we make 2 trebles in that corner, chain 2, which actually forms the corner itself, and 2 more trebles into the same corner. And you can see that that is now beginning to become a straight edge. And then we make another 2 trebles to go down the side into the next space, and we're on to the next corner. So it's treble 2, chain 2 and treble 2. Push these ends out of the way, and we've got a treble 2 before we come to the next space where we put in the next corner. So we just need to find that space, and usual, it's treble 2, chain 2, treble 2. And we've got one more group of 2 trebles to make before we come back to where we started. So that is the 2 trebles. And then we have half of a corner made already. So I'm going to yarn over, make 2 trebles. Oops. And we're left with just 2 chain stitches to link this corner together. So I chain 2, oops, my yarn's getting tangled, 1, 2, and then find the top of the very first chain 2 and slip stitch to finish off. And we have finished round 2. Now all the rounds are similar to this, and the one thing to remember is that we're turning it each time. So round 3, done in exactly the same way, but this time, just to make it slightly different, I'm going to use a different stitch. I'm going to use a half treble stitch. Now this is the only round 3, where we are using a half treble instead of a treble. Now I'm going to chain 2 as normal though, just to get started, which classes as the first half treble. And then I'm going to yarn over, put my hook into that same corner, pull up a loop, and this time I'm going to yarn over and pull through all these 3 loops, and it makes a slightly smaller stitch, and that's a half treble. So it's yarn over, and we've now got between the corners 2 spaces. So we've got 2 spaces to fill with 2 half trebles in each one. So there is 1, yarn over, insert hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3, 2, and then 2 in this space, and then we come to the corner again, and we'll put in 2 half trebles, 2 chains and 2 half trebles. So I'll work round and I'll see you when we get back to where we started. So now I have worked all the way round with this green colour, and you can see that the half treble does make a nice square edge to the square. I've got 2 groups of 2 half trebles between each corner, and I've just done my last of those, and I've just got to finish this corner off again. So it's a case of 2 half trebles, chain 2 and slip stitch into the top of the first chain 2. Cut that, and we start round 4, and this time we're using another colour. Now as you can see, all these ends are beginning to get a bit congested. There's a lot, it's a bit like spaghetti junction going on here, but just try and push them out of the way just now, and I'll explain why we're not finishing them off when we get to the end of the square. Now this is round 4, and there's going to be 2 rounds 4 and 5 where we use this same colour, and we're also back to working with the full treble stitch, not the half treble. I am doing it in exactly the same way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a complete round of the round 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, round 4 in this colour, and then I'll come back to you when I've done that and show you how we do round 5. And then after that we have one more round to do, and that's the square finished. Okay, so now I have gone completely round my square using the treble stitch and working with 2, of course, in each space. And I've come right back round to where I started, and I've chained 2 to finish off and slip stitched into the top of the first chain 2. Now I'm not going to cut my yarn because, as I said, we're going to have 2 rounds using the same colour. So before I turn over, I'm going to chain 2. And you'll see now that when I turn over, what actually happens is that chain 2 lands right at the very right hand side of this corner. So instead of doing half of a corner, working round and finishing it off, I'm going to do the complete corner in this side, this round. So it's treble 1, chain 2, treble 2. And then I can work around the square. And just remember that when you come all the way round and back, you don't need to do anything into this corner. It's already been done. So what I'll do is I'll work around and I'll see you back when I have got to this point. And also bear in mind that there are now 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces to put 2 trebles in between each corner. So I'll see you back at that point. So now I've gone all the way round with my second round in that colour, and I've got to the point where I've done the last group of 2 trebles along the straight side, and I'm at this corner which we completed when we started it. So all you need to do now is slip stitch into the top of your first chain 2 and finish off, and that is the round complete. So we've had 1 round, so far we've had 1 round each of different colours and then 2 rounds of 1 colour. We're going to turn this over again and do our last round, and I'm going to be doing it again. I've got a few bits and pieces here. I'm going to be doing it again with the same colour that we used for the second round. So this is just going to put an edge around the square. It's going to be exactly the same, starting in a corner, chain 2, treble 2, treble 2, treble 2, treble 2, treble 2, treble 2, because we've got 5 spaces now, treble 2, chain 2, treble 2 all the way round. So I will complete that side and then I'll come back to you and show you what we do with all these ends when we get to the end. So here we are again. I've completed the last round using this slightly darker shade. This is the Stylecraft Mushroom, and I finished off as normal, and this is the square complete now, apart from all these ends which are appearing on both sides because we've been turning the square each time we've worked. Now this is where I finished off with, this is the right side of the last round, but this is going to be turned over, and in fact this side is going to be the side that will be uppermost in the blanket. So this is going to be the front of the blanket. That means every time you do a square, your last round will be on the reverse side when your square is uppermost. And that's because when we put the joining stitch in, it does tend to hold it nice and straight and flat if you have the right side of the joining stitch to the wrong side of the last round. This sounds a bit complicated, but it's quite straightforward. So this is the front of the square. In actual fact, the little daisy in the middle is in the front. So that it looks nice like that. That's why I mentioned to you not to do your ends, because now you know which side is the wrong side, which is the right side. So you just need to, any ends which are showing on the right side, just put your hook in from the back and grab the end and pull it through so that you end up with all these long straggly ends on the back of the square. So there we have them. And then it's just a nice job, and I quite like it as a job, in fact, to sew in these ends neatly. There's such a lot of satisfaction I find from starting off with an untidy square and a few minutes later ending up with something that's really neat and tidy. So I'm taking the very first end where we started as the first one, and I'm going to show you how I weave in and out. And this particular one you want to pull really quite tightly so that you close up your centre hole. So I'm going to weave in quite a few times around this circle. This is the way I like to do it, pulling it tight each time, and then come back on itself. I usually go behind where I've come through so that it leaves a little stitch. As you can see, it just disappears, but that just makes sure that it's anchored nice and tightly. And then give your end a good tug and cut it quite near to the stitching, and it will disappear into the stitching. The others just treat in the same way, but you don't have to pull them as tightly as the first one. So just weave it through your work and try not to come through to the front. You don't want it seen at the front, and back in the same direction. You can go 3 times if you like. I'm just going to go twice for this one and cut it short. And you just do that with all your ends, and that is square 1 of your blanket.